Several years ago, I visited the Amazing Grace Orphanage, part of a Sudanese refugee camp in northern Uganda. It was founded by Susan Tabia, who had several children and whose husband was killed in the war in South Sudan. She knew many other women in the same predicament, so she founded an orphanage in a refugee camp. She reached out to everyone she knew to ask if they had friends in the West who could send money. And lots of money came in. My seminary sent me. While talking with her, I mentioned that my wife was a widow when I met her, and that I adopted her sons. After that, whenever I passed by those widows who lived at the orphanage, they stopped what they were doing and they bowed deeply. It made me kind of uncomfortable, actually. I remain so deeply humbled that a woman would give me her heart and her children. But these widows at the orphanage humbled me some more. Though I hadn't spoke with these ladies because they were busy and we didn't have a language in common, they communicated with utter clarity. In that act, too, I learned more about their culture and their life situation. In our society, if a husband and the father of young children dies, while a very great tragedy, it is unlikely that the widow and children will starve to death. In a refugee camp in Africa, it is likely that they will. And so I bring this understanding to a curious passage in the letter of James. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. This pure religion is something different than, give me that old-time religion. Why would James define religion in such a narrow way and say nothing about rituals and praise? In his society, too, widows and orphans starved to death because they had no power in a patriarchal society. They needed advocates, benefactors, and protectors, and God commanded godly men to fill those roles. Being religious in a way that is pure and undefiled before God, then, was less about ritual and more about doing something for the vulnerable and powerless people in society. I think that our Pantry Sundays, snack backpacks for the homeless at Kansas City Rescue Mission, and 90 turkeys and 100 hams for families in downtown Kansas City at Thanksgiving and Christmas are very religious activities. Where is the pure religion about which James wrote? Here, at this table, or over there, at the food pantry? I think that both the Holy Eucharist and the outreach accomplish true religion. Instituting the sacrament of Holy Eucharist at the Last Supper, Jesus said, "Take, eat, this is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And, "My flesh is true food and my blood is true drink. Whoever feeds on my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me and I in him." We can hold beside these words about our rite of Holy Eucharist others that he spoke. "Feed my sheep," and "You give them something to eat," and "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me." And he also said, "As you did it to one of the least of these, you did it to me." Now, we don't normally worship this way. It's okay to do that if you want. I promise we will not lower the ceiling fans. But I'm imagining one hand worships and the other hand serves. This is a body that I believe James would describe as a religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father, to praise and to serve. What about that other thing he said, keeping ourselves unstained by the world? What is the stain of the world? I'm not sure what it was for James. I really don't know. But right now, the stain that I am resisting is the polarization and politicizing of everything. It is rampant in the secular world and in the church. We have suffered arguments about the doctrinal purity of the clergy, or the orientation of the worshiper, or the politics of handing out free meals, or you name it. When we get caught up, we may ignore the widows and orphans and all of the other powerless people who need true religion, who need us. James, the brother of Jesus, preached a sermon that became part of this letter that we heard this morning. The congregations which he addressed must have been experiencing something like our situation, for he said, and this is good guidance for all of us, chiefly for myself, welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. But be doers of the word, and not merely hearers. Those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. When we are the hands and feet of Christ to a world in need, then we are the doers of the word. So stay focused. Keep one hand raised in worship and another hand out in service. God's blessing will be with all of us. Our Lord's brother promised it. Amen.